Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Tom Kelly Show podcast, a home of self-help comedy. My name is Tom Kelly. I'm a stand-up comedian who you have seen on ABC World News Now, The View, Good Morning America, The $100,000 Pyramid, and like a whole bunch of other shows. My life has been a mess for a long, long time. And for those of you who have been listening to this show, and for those of you new to this show, this is the podcast where we clean up that mess. We celebrate that mess, and we get ready for a great 2022. Though at the rate things are going, we may want to aim for a great 2023. Anyway, we are Tom Kelly Show all across the board on social media. Hit subscribe on this podcast now. And if you get time, check back in person for it, because I am been doing a new show every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But right now I have two guests in the room. I'm rambling. Let's start the damn show.
The Tom Kelly Show. Everybody,
and then
I want you to go to the Tom.
I'm judging Grandma Gail on whether or not she dances to the song. Here we go.
From the Tom Kelly Show.
Podcasting from the Upper West Side of New York City and sunny Palm Beach, Florida. But guess which one I'm in? You're listening to the Tom Kelly Show. I have a guest today. I have Kim Murenstein and Grandma Gail from the Excuse My Grandma podcast. Before I start asking them questions, I'll tell you a little bit about my understanding of the podcast and a little bit about my grandparents. Kim is single and 25, on the prowl, gorgeous. Everything's going for her. And like everybody who's 25, she's having trouble finding love. What do you know? She's got a great grandma, and the great grandma is not a great grandma, but a grandmother who is giving her advice on how to be a great dating person and to find the right one. Now, me, for those of you who've been following my love life for the past 40 something years, you'll know I don't want my family to be a part of it. And lately, I've even been excusing friends from it. I brought one girl home once, and God bless, heard about her for the next 20 years. I had to wait for my grandparents to die to stop hearing about what happened to Pam. Okay. And that was the one good thing. For as much as I miss my grandparents, that was the one good thing that came out of it. Anyway, Kim went the opposite way. I only brought one person home, and as far as my parents and grandparents and extended family are concerned, I am asexual, and we'll go into those reasons in a minute. Kim decided to podcast with her grandmother about her love life. Kim, how did this all happen?
Okay, well, I already love you, Tom, but I need to correct you on two things. One, because of grandma's helpful advice, I now am not single. Well, I'm still I'm not married, but you know.
Wait, podcast is over then. What the hell are we doing it for? The job is done.
Not really, though, because I still need a ton of advice, even while
we're helping America.
Yeah, and we're helping others.
I am in love with Grandma Gail. I mean, I knew Kim had the email address that worked, but Grandma Gail is who I really wanted on this thing.
She's the talent.
Congratulations. So how many episodes did it take for Grandma Gail to find you the right guy?
I did it myself, but I will, of course, I needed Grandma Gail's feedback throughout the way. And I think I internalized a lot from failed relationships going into this one. And I learned a lot. So it is somewhat because of Grandma. But probably 25 episodes in, I would say.
Yeah. But now she has no ring on her finger, so it's not over yet. She doesn't have, it's a commitment, but not a permanent commitment. So let's get that clear.
No one will be perfect in the eyes of Grandma Gail.
Oh my God.
No one is perfect except for you.
Thank you.
I know, it's funny the way Gail is talking. It's like, and the 100th caller will get a date with Kim.
No. She has to filter through the list.
Well, I mean, not to work backwards, but Grandma Gail, do we like Kim's current significant other?
Yes, very much so. But he's a significant other. He's not a permanent.
Okay.
Until you're permanent, it's all things go.
So you like the guy, you want to upgrade him to fiance soon?
No. They're too young. They're both too young. So I think they can wait. They can handle work this through for a year or so.
All right. So let's go. Hold on. There's so much news just dropped that we missed a couple of big things there. So Kim, you found a guy after 25 episodes of podcasting with Grandma. Let's go back 25 episodes ago. How did this podcast start?
So almost a year ago now, I'm from New York City, but I moved to Palm Beach in with my grandparents because I wanted to escape. Even though I'm a native New Yorker, I was a little treasonous. And I was actively dating. And Grandma Gail, you can probably tell already, is super unfiltered, was giving me a ton of her feedback on like what to wear on my dates, swiping through apps with me and picking guys she wanted me to go out with. We would debrief when I get back and talk things through. So then our family and friends who we were with was like, you guys need to do something together so we can be a fly on the wall in this. So I was like already working in media. I was a journalist for a few years. So I had the idea to start the podcast, and then we started bringing on guests in the industry and, dating experts and entertainment people, divorce lawyers, gynecologists, kind of everything under the sun. And shortly after, we started our TikTok account and grew a ton on there as well.
Yeah, your TikTok is huge. You've been on Rachel Ray.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on a couple of shows, right? Or is it?
We've been on Rachel Ray, and we did Pix 11, the local New York news show. And yeah, we're getting a ton of press, which is great.
So and of course here, the Tom Kelly Show. If this isn't what sets you over the top, I don't know what it will. But
Definitely set her over the top.
I love you, Grandma Gail. I love you. I'm gonna adopt you as my new Jewish grandma. You're Jewish, right?
I'm Jewish.
No, I'm half Italian. There's a lot of similarities.
It's the same thing.
I used to say it's the same thing, and then I don't know. Then the Italians say we got better food, and then the Jewish people say we got better beachfront property, and then people start fighting. So I don't know. So Grandma Gail, did you even know what a podcast was when Kim said let's start one?
No, absolutely not. I didn't know anything about a podcast. And I must say also, I didn't know that much about dating apps, which that was a thing that Kimmy had a lot of things I had to learn, and that's fine.
And all the lingo we use today, I'll be like, oh, he slid into my DMs, he ghosted me, and you'd be like, this is not English.
Right.
You have to explain all of that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of explaining to do and a lot of things that I didn't approve of, but I got to understand it more, and I think that's fine because that's growing and that makes you not become senile. And down in Florida, that's very important, not to become senile.
Well, and friends who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, I'm looking at Grandma Gail's apartment, and I want to ask, does Grandma Gail have any single neighbors?
Not very many. Most of them are couples or, unfortunately, widows or widowers.
No, there you go. Widows I'm into. And quite frankly, at this point, I'll even take a very lonely widower. Now,
Nice young girl.
We'll work on that. We'll work on that, Grandma Gail. We'll work on my mess on your podcast. And this is going to be a two-parter. I plan to be on the Excuse My Grandma podcast after this one airs, which anyway, figure it out, people. Back to Gail. Gail, what year did you get married?
1963, and I'm still married.
Okay. That's my way of getting a sense of your generation. I'm not allowed to ask how old you are, right? That's rude.
Ask how old I am. I'm 79.
Holy cow.
Married for 58 years to the same gentleman. And we came from a much different culture than it is today. That I have to honestly say.
So let's start slow. What is the secret to a 58-year marriage to the same person?
Keep your mouth shut. If you don't really.
If you're him.
If you're him.
Okay.
If you're him, let him go to work, make the money, and come home and just be nice.
So very what we would call traditional. Did you work? Did you have a job?
No.
Now you do.
Now I have a job with Kimberly. Put me to work. I have a schedule. I have everything. I never worked. For 56 years, I was independent. Now I have a boss. Okay.
Now, when you start diving into your grandchild's dating life, some 58 years after you were single, what was the biggest pro about dating nowadays? Like one good thing that you didn't have and one thing that you had better than Kim does?
I think the negative, should I do the pro? I'll do the pro first. I think the pro is that you really are much more open. You're much more frank with your dates. You're not worried. First of all, you're not worried sexually. which is a very big difference between dating in the 2021 and dating in the 50s. We didn't have sex. I mean, if you had sex, you ended up pregnant, and then you either get to have trouble or get married. So it was a very different set of circumstances then. I think the positive when we were dating is it was a simpler time. We weren't texting. We weren't going through all these dating apps. We were basically set up by friends or family. And it usually came from people from similar backgrounds because we grew up in a very small little pockets of the city or of the suburban areas. And it was less stressful. It was, you basically found somebody after you got out of university or when you got out of high school, and you married them and you had children and you went on with your life.
See, and I feel like I'm the bridge between Kim's generation and your generation. When I started dating, some of my friends like me, I probably could have had sex at a young age, just nobody wanted to have sex with me, but I could have.
Right.
I could have. But I could have, but I couldn't. So now for you, but I find like I feel like before the advent of the internet, there was less temptation and you didn't know what else was at the buffet table. Like if you married, I was raised in Massapequa, Long Island. If you married the hottest girl from Massapequa, Long Island, or the hottest guy from Massapequa, Long Island, you didn't know there were better looking and richer people in the next town over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've discussed that many times.
Yeah. Well, I always say like a dating app is essentially like a bar in your pocket at all times. Like if you're not happy with the person you're sitting with, like you have hundreds of others in your pocket. And I think that's a huge issue actually that I'll own up to is like every relationship that I was in and you saw it, I'd be like, well, this is fun, but like there could be Prince Charming, there could be someone better. And I think we're in this spiral of that versus like before the apps or before social media. As you were saying, Tom, like if you meet someone great, I think it was kind of just like, okay, ignorance is bliss. Like you don't know what else is out there. So you're happy.
There's always somebody out there, Tom, that's better. So at some point you have to say, you know what, this is a nice girl, a nice guy. Let's go with it and see where the relationship goes. I think there is no one person for each person. I don't believe in that.
You don't believe in soulmate. You're married to a man for 58 darned years and you don't believe in soulmates.
You can have a soulmate with
multiple
people.
So
had you met, you strike me as you're Brooklyn, right, Gail?
No, I was from Westchester.
Oh, even fancier. Good for you. Okay. So like if you were in Westchester, you were raised in Westchester and you're telling me that Mr. Right could have also been in Connecticut or Brooklyn or Manhattan?
Absolutely. First of all, Mr. Right was who asked you to get married. And then if you liked him, you accepted it. It wasn't something earth shaking. It wasn't coming down from God giving us a signal. You did what you thought was correct at that time to go forward in a relationship and get married and have children. And that was fine. And we had wonderful times.
I feel like people now say that's settling.
No, I don't think it was settling.
And not even settling, but like I look for, and again, this is also why I'm single and 45. And there's a bunch of other reasons which we can go into on your podcast when you're analyzing me. But I feel that I would like to know the voice of God were helping me. And I never thought a woman who is married 58 years.
If you're waiting for the voice of God, you're never getting married.
So like my grandparents had the big voice of God story. My grandfather, they grew up in Sicily. They had no electricity. My grandfather was a borderline stalker by today's standards. My grandfather was 18 or 19, saw a hot 14-year-old girl. Again, creepy by today's standards. Wrote on the back of a matchbook, "Do you like me?"
I love it.
Threw it through her bedroom window while she was in her bedroom. And she stuck her head out the window and either nodded yes or not. To have him go on the date, they had to talk to the town matchmaker. They had to approve it. And then God bless my grandfather and grandmother. my grandfather fought for the wrong side in World War II. He got drafted in Mussolini's army. He was a prisoner of war for 5 years, and my grandmother waited 8 years. And I don't even know if this sounds so awful to say out loud. I don't know if they did it in those 8 years,
Probably did. Trust me. They probably did, but that's fine. You see, she waited because that was what was expected of her. And that's what I'm saying. You made a commitment to somebody and you stuck with it. You didn't go thinking on one of these podcasts or on one of these dating apps, oh, maybe there's a better guy next door will send 2 rocks through my window.
No, but like, let's compare that to Kim's story. Compare that great story, waited for 8 years in World War II, blah, 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 to Kim's story of, I saw a guy in an app. He looked like he didn't have herpes and he turned out to be fun when I got drunk with him at the bar.
Well, that's today's world versus an older world.
But that is like the romance and the gravitas of that story. Like, why can't we have that?
Kim, do you feel like you're missing that?
100%. I like want to write rom-coms, and like I do like any content that we create. I think in the back of my head, I'm like, it's all for this greater plan of like creating the perfect love story and like figuring dating out, but
there is no perfect love story, guys. I hate to tell you, I hate to burst your bubble. It's work. You start off
I know
saying
people
you're in love, and whatever love is, but then it's work, it's children, it's dinner, it's the laundry, it's jobs. I mean, there's no such thing as a fairy tale like you're seeing in Hollywood. This is what the problem is with your generation. You're imagining what love should be.
Yeah, but the 50s movies had all that stuff.
But it was fantasy.
And you had to pay $1.50 to go in.
I think it was $1.50.
It was a nickel. I'm sorry. And you had to pay a nickel to watch it on a Saturday in a double feature matinee.
I think you were lucky if you had a guy hold your hand and walk around and go to the movie theater, get an ice cream cone, and that was love.
Okay. So Gail, you're 79. Okay. Kim is 25. When you were 25, were you as hopeful and starry-eyed as Kim is, or were you as frank as you are now?
Exactly the way I was. And I had a child at that point who was 3 years old. And I lived a very nice life with my husband. We did things together that we enjoyed. We were beginning a family, and we had a role. We had a role that we played. He did his role and I did my role, and we were very happy. I think it was, we had less expectations perhaps of what a great career would be, what the perfect child would be. We had enough and we were happy with what we had chosen. And I think we didn't look at the guy next door to see if he was better. Because if that happened, which is what happened in the 70s with a lot of my girlfriends, we realized, well, there are other things out there, and we're going to leave that comfortable situation that was in the 60s or late 50s. So it was, all of a sudden society shifts in their pendulums that go back and forth. I think it's gone a little bit too far to the right in many ways. I think things have to get back into the center where you find your core and you find somebody that would make a good partner and a good life together. That's a very important thing. It's not all roses and it's not all champagne bottles. It's work.
So Kim, I could not have this conversation with my grandparents. I could not have this conversation with my parents. And frankly, even with my own cousins and brother, my cousins are trying to set me up with their cousins. How awkward is that? Okay. It's very like, I can't even go home to Christmas because I can't say, stop trying to set me up with relatives and blood relatives. It's just very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How do you turn this into a podcast with your family that's not just an intimate conversation with your grandma? Now every weirdo in your life is listening in.
Yeah, believe it or not, we're even more unfiltered not recording. Like if I start to be a little too personal, grandma will be like, gotta stop. So we are very, very close. She is my best friend and so is my mom. So I think, I'm cringing, but I think that it's just true. Like you talk to your friends in the same way. And like, of course there's certain things that I probably hold back, but honestly, not really. I think like I value their opinions slash I know if I did something they didn't approve of, I would never hear the end of it. So it's kind of like holding myself accountable, or like just allowing like us to have a better relationship by being open about it all.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess that's I'm trying to not ask a question in a creepy way, which is how do you decide how much information to give grandma without me sounding creepy or asking the weird questions, kissing, not kissing? How do you decide it's grandma worthy?
It's not grandma worthy to know about her sex life.
Okay.
And
Good.
I
like,
don't want to know about that. And I don't
Perfect.
really care about her kissing. We're more into the emotional part of it. What does it make
but
you
some
happy?
yeah, and I guess the time that like sex comes in is if it is affecting the emotional.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't even mean sex. I don't even mean all sex. Like even like I don't like. There's an old Italian saying with my grandfather's sister, who was the meanest human being on earth. She said to her two sons she didn't want to meet anybody that they dated, and that she would only make coffee once, which was her way of saying, I don't give a poop who you're dating, what's going on. Just let me know when it's the fiance.
Yeah,
She's you're
And
not
now,
I
What-
don't think.
well, you know what? I think we've all become a little more sophisticated than that. And,
Yeah.
and we know that everybody you date is not going to be the person that you're going to end up with. You can have several really nice boyfriends or girlfriends
Mhm.
over the years. And I think that's an important thing, because you don't want to also marry the first person that you date today. It's a much more sophisticated world. I wouldn't
Mhm.
advise that to somebody.
Mhm.
I think the experience of going out with several different people, different types, is important to develop who you really are and who you really want to make as your partner for life.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think the
that's the one
opposite
good
gets
thing.
difficult though, because then it's like everyone you bring home, you kind of have to prove to your family, this could be the one. Don't view them as like another boyfriend, another girlfriend, like take this seriously. Even if it isn't the person, you want to be taken seriously because you take it seriously,
Right.
even when you're 18.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true. But I'm not going to worry about my grandson who's 19.
But that's the thing, like that would probably hurt. I remember it would hurt my feelings at 19 when everyone would be like, this isn't your person, it's just your high school boyfriend, shut up. Like I didn't like that.
I know, but that's part of being mature. And I don't think the person you start out with at 18, 19, 20 is going to be the person at 30 that you're going to end up with. I just don't. I mean, there are some that are. There are sweethearts from high school that stay together and love each other and have wonderful lives, and college as well. But I think in today's age, it's so varied out there. Everybody sort of wants to take a taste of the smorgasbord. They're all having a different flavor. And I think you get more mature. You realize different people have different assets for you for a long-term partnership.
Mhm.
I don't think it happens usually with the first or second date. It takes a while.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's as long as you.
no.
I'm not saying for her to wait as long as you've waited.
So actually, I'll end my podcast on this question, because what I find better than Kim's dating life is, I think, excuse my grandma, is a showcase of how close a woman can be with her grandmother and vice versa. I was going to hit you up with the shtick for dating advice, but instead I'm going to ask you both for what is the secret to such a, I don't want to say intimate, but yeah, intimate or close relationship with a relative.
Yeah. I think we're going to say the same thing. Do you want to say it on three? Let's see if it's the same.
Right, one, I'll do it. 1, 2, 3.
Listening. Oh.
Respect. I was going to say respect.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, you're one and the same, but
Okay.
yeah, I think that like it's so easy for my generation, I guess, to look, probably actually for every generation, to look at their elders and say they don't get it. Like they aren't living in this time. They don't know what I'm going through. Things are different now. They're not inclusive. They're not whatever it is. But I think if you take the time to like actually listen to where they're coming from, they have wisdom of some sort, they've lived a life, and vice versa, for them to listen to what we're going through and have these like conversations. That's honestly what it's all about. Like I want the generations to just like learn from each other.
Right. That's what we're really trying to do.
Mhm.
And the feedback we get from people who really listen to our podcast, not the TikToks, which are fun, but the podcast really has something to say. And we hope that people listen to it and get something from it, and they can talk to their families.
Yeah, and I think on TikTok, like people love to see like if they've lost their grandparent, they're
Right.
like, this reminds me so much of my relationship with them. So I think it's also playing on nostalgia.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's better than that. It is whatever you want to call it. It is beautiful. Grandma touched on one last thing there, Grandma Gail, which is TikTok. You know, you're on TikTok. You understand what TikTok is. Do you have it on your phone?
I now do.
No, you don't, Grandma.
You put it,
No.
didn't you put it on
She
my
does.
phone?
No.
Oh, then maybe
I don't know how you're seeing the videos, but she's not logged into our account. She has no access to our
Oh,
account.
your account. No, I thought you gave me something that I touch and I can see the video.
Do you have the app on your phone?
I think so. I think you put it into my phone.
Oh,
I didn't
don't
know what
know.
it was originally. I had no idea. I thought it was a mint. I absolutely
TikTok.
have no idea what she's doing. But you know what? I did see all the things, and some of them I really love. I think they're funny and they do reach out to different generations, and you get a laugh.
I love you. All right. So listen, excuse my grandma across the board, TikTok, the podcast, find them, subscribe to them, because in the next couple of days, I will be on their podcast. I'm not sure when I'm going to air this. So for right now, guys, good night, New York. Stop that. Okay. The two of you are friggin' fantastic.
What?
Oh my God. Yeah. I got what I needed. I could have done this for an hour.